Hello and welcome to Unwatchables, where if you don't wake up screaming, you may not wake up at all. I am Marc Dottavio.
I'm Seth Troyer.
And today we welcome Letterboxd's own Swartacus for what's now the second edition of our Cannes-tastrophes series. The Cannes Film Festival is the most prestigious festival in the world, and these films had premieres so disastrous that, in some cases, hundreds booed and fled. We'll be discussing the film that Roger Ebert declared the worst in Cannes history, Vincent Gallo's scandalous 2003 sophomore feature, The Brown Bunny, and Gus Van Sant's universally panned Matthew McConaughey-starring drama, The Sea of Trees. Our guest today goes by Swartacus. We call him Andy. You can find his thoughtful reviews on his Letterboxd page or follow his blog at popnotsoda.blog. Andy, I couldn't tell exactly how often you update the blog, but is there anything you can tell us about that?
Oh, not very often. Actually, I started that when I quit drinking. It was kind of like a sober blog. And then I noticed that they started bleeding together with my Letterboxd. So then I just went with Letterboxd after that. But there's some nice long-winded rants on there if anybody's just quitting alcohol that, I don't know, may or may not help you.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, we'll keep it going then.
And I know I've listened to you a lot. I mean, I started reading your work through Letterboxd and stuff, and I really liked your spin on things. And you go far and away above the Call of Duty for Letterboxd reviews, you know, which I find myself, whether I intend to or not, wind up rambling on and on and on there. And you have very good things to say. Everybody should follow you on there. And also your blog is wonderful. And on the subject that is on alcoholism, I know you were also on a podcast, friend of the pod, Amy, watch this list, specifically Amy's project, Amy's progress. Which ones were you on? Which episodes?
I don't know, like 3 or 4 of them. The last one was actually the last one I was on was the Coen Brothers one, but that wasn't the Amy's Progress. I think the Amy's Progress ones were First Reformed, and gosh, I can't remember the other couple. But there was 2 or 3 of those, and then the last one was Serious Man and Oh Brother. That one was probably the most recent one. That one was like a lot of fun for me, being from Minnesota, talking about the Coens. So yeah, that's I did go on. I mean, really, that's the only podcast I've been on recently. So I was super honored that you guys invited me here, because I love reading both of your work on Letterboxd as well. And your Psycho Unwatchable was, gosh, I was listening to that to and from work today. I just absolutely love it.
So well, that was one of the reviews where I was that I read of yours, where it was just such an interesting take and so many different places it went that I was like, okay, get this guy on here. I almost wish we could do Psycho the remake part 2 in some sort of psychotic way. But I was like, well, what about Gus Van Sant? Like some other weird Gus Van Sant. And I was like, I've been wanting to do The Sea of Trees on the podcast because it is, I don't know, to my knowledge, the last, that I know of, Cannes boo moment. Like, it was notorious for just like walking out, booing at the screen and shit.
I had absolutely never heard of it until you brought it up. I'm like, I can't believe that, because I've seen most of his other movies.
It kind of like is his, like this kind of is like a Psycho 2 remake episode. It's closest as he ever came.
It kind of is. It's not what I thought it was, but at the same time, I kind of see what he was going for, because that was kind of like, you know, the soup of the day type of movie. And he was trying to I'm sure he was trying to put his spin on it, but we could talk about that later.
Those Cannes crowds are just rowdy. Like there have been a lot of instances where people are furious and booing, but
can't
also
even imagine that.
Also, they're known for giving like 15-minute standing ovations at the end of pretty much every movie, including, I read, The Brown Bunny, even though according to Ebert, hundreds of people fled the theater and were jeering and booing. It's the French, I think. I think the French aren't afraid to do that.
They're just so high off the fact that, like, we're a Cannes audience. We have to make a splash.
The funny thing about both of these was watching them, though, and I hadn't seen either one of them. And I wanted to see the Brown Bunny for years, and I was like just kind of dreading it, thinking it'll be horrible. But the thing that threw me off, there was like two specific moments, one in each movie, like where I would be like, oh, that's really stupid. But I don't know if it would make me boo the whole movie. Like stand up and like just get obnoxious and boo the whole movie. I mean, it would take an awful lot, I think, for me to do that.
I'd be curious to see where each of our boo points would be in the movie. Because I would agree that a large chunk of the movie, and I wonder when it was in the movie's runtime that people really started booing. But like, we can guess that.
Oh, I'm pretty sure
the big moment was the big moment, the climactic moment. No pun intended.
Well, the thing about the Brown Bunny is kind of like Southland Tales, which was on our last Cannes-tastrophes episode with Nathan Rabin, where we talked about Southland Tales and Under the Silver Lake. And we also, our Irreversible episode, talked for a while about the Cannes experience and how people were fleeing. But that wasn't necessarily discussed at the filmmaking as just in horror as to what was going on and the whole sensory experience. But Southland Tales ended up getting significantly shortened and recut after Cannes. You can see the Cannes cut of Southland Tales, which is what we talked about on the show.
Did you guys see that? Like, I haven't watched that yet. I think
that's
it's on.
What we reviewed,
I think it's actually on. It's on my it's on my Blu-ray that I have. I just haven't got to it yet. Is it like fully formed, or is it just like weird work cut?
No, I preferred it. I thought it was, I mean, granted, it was my second time seeing the movie in general, so maybe I had just a better compass for navigating the plot, but I found what was added helpful.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out. I actually like Southland Tales. I mean, I don't think it's his best, but I didn't hate it.
Ooh, spoiled the end of the podcast, because that's usually what we ask at the end of every podcast. Is everyone's feelings
Southland
on
Tales? Well, I didn't know we were talking about that one.
No. But
no, it was a big
don't watch that one.
This is historic.
It's an emblematic movie of what the kind of thing that Seth and I argue over a lot.
Starting with the Southland Tales. I'm the defender, he's the hater. You know, we see who is on which side.
Did you guys ever cover The Box?
No, I want to see it.
No, but I have seen that incredibly stupid movie.
I think that one's that one's not quite as good.
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna like it.
Yeah, but Vincent Gallo, on the other hand, who, like Richard Kelly, has only made 3 films and looks like he might be in director jail forever. The version of the Brown Bunny they saw at Cannes was 26 minutes longer than the one that anyone can see now. So we don't have access to the version that people saw in that original disastrous screening that Ebert declared the worst film in the history of Cannes.
Well, disastrous and victorious, because there is this split narrative where if you listen to interviews with Gallo himself, who is, we'll get into it, an incredibly animated, ridiculous figure, to say the least. He talks about how it was totally split, where it was half the audience left booing, and then the other half of the audience, like you said, gave it a 15-minute standing ovation or something. And but anyone who listens to an interview with him has to take all of that with a grain of salt, and just like, he says insane things in all of his interviews, including like growing up with William S. Burroughs in his childhood or shit like that. All kinds of
putting
stuff.
Putting a hex on Ebert's colon.
Yes.
Yeah, really, it was the whole Ebert feud. I think it was Ebert who had the biggest megaphone for making such a big statement. And, it is hard for me to watch this version of this movie and imagine any version that would literally be the worst thing that's ever played at Cannes. And Ebert did kind of admit that was hyperbole later on. And you can see he actually did a little like short interview with Vincent Gallo where Gallo's kind of calling him out and being very reasonable and like well-spoken.
Was that the Howard Stern thing?
No, this was actually him talking to Ebert.
Oh wow!
Maybe we'll play a
After
clip
he
or
like
something.
hurled all kinds of insults about Ebert's weight constantly.
This was years later.
Yeah.
Ebert had a good
He called him
comeback
a
though.
pig or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ebert's response
So
was,
bad.
"One day I will be thin, but you will always be the director of the Brown Bunny."
It's so cool.
Well, I can tell you right now, guys, like if I was sitting at Cannes and this is what I heard anyway, like that first racing scene was like 4 minutes long. And I was like, oh my God, how long is this going to go on? Just horribly filmed motorcycle racing. And I heard somewhere that was like 5 or 6 minutes longer. And I think if I had to watch
longer than it already is.
If I had to watch 10 minutes of that, I'd probably just terrible zooming in and out, framing like a motorcycle going around a track. I might get annoyed and leave too.
Well, before we dive into this movie in particular, though, I want to talk about Vincent Gallo because this was his second movie, and his first movie, Buffalo 66, is, in my opinion, like one of the best debut films ever. I think it's a masterpiece.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a big. It took the indie movie world by storm, and it was a darling.
Yeah, he directed, co-wrote, starred in it. It's a very weird, funny, like kind of sick, exaggerated twist on the whole man-child gets redeemed by a manic pixie dream girl story.
Totally.
And I love it when people put a twist on genres like that are usually the worst.
Yeah, it was
when
great.
They're played straight-faced.
I wish I had watched that before this because I have. It's been a while. It's been probably at least five years since I've seen it. But there was a while there where I absolutely love that movie. I actually liked him in The Funeral too. I'm surprised
he's acted in. We talked about Trouble Every Day that he starred in, even though we weren't big fans of that movie. Like you said, he's in The Funeral. He was in one of Claire Denis' first movies, U.S. Go Home. That's really, really good.
I haven't seen that.
He's in Francis Ford Coppola. The one thing I learned was he was in Tetro.
Oh, Tetro. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize he was in. I've watched Goodfellas probably 50 times, and I didn't realize he was like 70s goon number 3 or whatever.
Yeah, he's in that. And Coppola cast him in Tetro even after. Well, probably that was before the internet and readily available interviews about someone saying your daughter is a whore. He was famously, I think before that movie came out. I wonder
he said that about Sophia.
Yeah. He goes on this whole rant in this interview from 2003 about how Sophia's a whore or something. Oh my God! That's the other thing we will get into. Yeah, he pretty much isolates most women who work with him, in a very Lars von Trier sort of way, but probably in his own special Gallo sort of way. Like Christina Ricci.
Charming Gallo.
Oh yes, Christina Ricci wound up like after the experience with Buffalo 66, despite its success, was like, I'm never working with that guy again. He's a fucking psycho.
One of those guys.
Which began a whole slew of that.
Like he seems like someone I would be scared to be around in real life.
Oh yeah,
definitely to work with. He's kind of a weirdo. He's got this whole weird performance art running joke thing where
even
he like sells his semen on his website.
Yes,
no.
Sells his semen.
I'm not kidding at all.
And like also advertises that you can sleep with him for like $50,000 or something, and it goes
still today.
To this day, yes.
Dude's like in his 60s.
Yeah. Wild. I don't know. But I mean, that's a lot of money.
I'm still raising the money.
Yes, I really need to have sex with a 60-year-old man who is abusive and terrible. But
who still talks like this.
He does have this way of talking. A shifter car. I can't work a shifter car. I always think of the shifter car thing from Buffalo 66 with him. But he does have this whole. Again, I just go back to the interviews. Like the interviews are just insane, and they're just these sprawling like stories often about his background, which was it sounds like a very tumultuous, intense background of like abusive parents, plus being a mafia teenager. He like was involved in like stealing cars and stuff like that as a kid. And then it's just like the wildest little like Dickensian story that he's always rattling off more and more of it. Like, and then he was Formula car race guy. Somehow he just fell into that. And then he's in Goodfellas all of a sudden. And then he's William S. Burroughs he's living with William S. Burroughs out of nowhere. And just like, and then he makes Buffalo 66.
Alternate trash for Forrest Gump.
Yes, basically.
Yeah, he was all around that indie scene. And, but he made a great movie. And, The Brown Bunny was his big follow-up, which he even doubled down on, not just writing and directing it and starring in it. He edited it. He did the cinematography. He shot this on 16 millimeter and like blew it up to 35 millimeters. So it looks more lo-fi than Buffalo 66. Like
it's really foggy.
It looks like, I think it really looks like Easy Rider. And like, I don't know if that was 16 millimeter. That one, and also I wrote down Leaving Las Vegas because I think that was also shot on 16 and blown up because the Vegas scenes really reminded me a little bit of that.
Yeah, and this is very minimalist. There's not those stylized sequences like in Buffalo 66 where, there's like a weird musical number or the lights suddenly go down. And I think the reason that people, before we get to the whole infamous sex scene and everything, that the reason people reacted so hostily to this is because of this longer version, which was 2 hours. He cut it down to 93 minutes, which is, that's a pretty significant difference in your movie.
Yeah,
when you're cutting that much stuff out. And it does open with this long scene that's just following him in circles and circles and circles around a racetrack. And I was just imagining that going on for 4 minutes longer. And apparently there was like a 7-minute scene of just driving, like through the windshield.
Yes.
And at the
end, I actually like that windshield look. That made it seem a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, me too. That's my favorite part of the movie. I think is especially when paired with those music numbers. A lot of this movie. God, I had
no idea the soundtrack would be that good.
It rips. Yeah, there's that Gordon Lightfoot song that's just beautiful while it's raining.
That absolutely broke me. I sent a note to Amy about that, and I'm like, how dare he do this? Because I grew up listening to that guy. My dad was from North Dakota, and then he loved Gordon Lightfoot, and like immediately I thought about just driving through North Dakota where there's like nothing and just listening to that type of music.
Oh, I love that.
How can this end in a crazy blowjob? Like I have no idea like how this is gonna go.
I know. And it would be really interesting. It's one of those things like The Sixth Sense, right? Where it's just like
it is. It totally is.
Well, let's not spoil everything. Let's not spoil everything quite yet.
Okay. But you brought up Easy Rider, and I think that's super apt. And I would be surprised. I haven't really read anything, but if that wasn't sort of filtering into this in some sort of way,
it
feels like it's in that world of low budget kind of 70s movies, like a guy out against the world, and he's just got his car and his motorcycle or whatever, and he's taking that aesthetic and it goes into even the film grain and everything. He's just a lone wolf out on the road, but he's taking it to this ultra mundane, slow cinema space. Not unlike
very slow cinema,
Satan Tango or something, just way more like camcorder feeling or something like that.
And I could see like the bones of a much more alienating movie in there. Like I could imagine a version of this that has just 6 minutes of a black screen and music at the end, apparently was another difference. And I could see this being pushed overboard to being like something that really feels meandering and pretentious. Maybe not the worst thing ever, but something that might really frustrate people or seem navel-gazing and indulgent and narcissistic.
Yeah, and that's probably like, it's almost like his FU movie, but then he realized how hated it was, and then he took his talents from Buffalo 66 and like actually made a real movie. I think that was my biggest surprise, that the movie actually made sense. I thought it was going to be mostly nonsense, but it makes sense, and the story makes sense with the character, and I liked most of it. But there's some scenes that are just like, dude, come on. What are you doing?
Well, I would say I really like the slow, and I think we all kind of agree, the more atmospheric, slow cinema parts where it is just looking out the windshield while he's driving and we're listening to an entire song from start to finish. It is kind of cool. It feels like a real road trip, and you're like, oh, he's going through Cleveland. Oh, he's going through this area, Indianapolis. We're tracking where he's going. The problem
There's bird
is
shit on the window.
bird shit on the window. The problem is it seems like anytime he stops, and it's got to be a real movie scene with like some dialogue or something happens, those are my least favorite parts of the movie, to be honest. I mean, what do you guys think of some of those? I kept thinking
he was going to get a blowjob from every one of those women, but that didn't happen. So
see, then it would be a real 70s porno. Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like it because it's 16 millimeter, and the fact you got Cheryl Tiegs in it, who was like the 70s pinup, and now she's like 50 some years old.
Which I didn't know until I read about it. But yeah, she was, if I'm correct, she was like a big sex symbol, but obviously is over the hill by the point of this movie. So it feels like there's some sort of stunt casting going on there. Or I don't know if he's trying to say something.
She's been in like 2 movies. And I was talking to somebody else about this. Actually, Cheryl Tiegs around this time was at the shopping network that I work at, selling like microdermabrasion, some kind of face thing. And to think that she was at around that same time making the Brown Bunny it absolutely, it blew my mind, because in my mind in those days she was super old, but now she's maybe like in that movie she's maybe 6 or 7 years older than me. So I see like and top it off, the 16 millimeter and how it's almost falling back to the 70s. Mm-hmm. I just think that was kind of a stroke of genius that he did that, but at the same time he didn't really do anything with it, right? He like went to a pop machine and then he came back and they kind of like did a squirrel kiss. Well, yeah,
they have like a weird thing. She's a stranger to him, and she's just sitting there, and then they have this. I don't know. It's reaching for some sort of. I'm sure he could talk our ears off about what he might be trying to do, but it is just like he's like, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" And then she just like breaks down, sort of, and then they start making out and stuff.
Well, here's the thing about the first like part of this, and it's kind of divided into. We have this big long climactic scene where Chloe Sevigny shows up in his hotel room, and which is kind of like the turning point of the movie. But everything up to them, where it's just this road movie, I agree that my favorite stuff is just when it gets hypnotic and
the road trip stuff.
And my main reservation was just how bare bones everything else felt. That we do eventually get, at first, there's a little bit of mystery here because, first of all, you have Vincent Gallo, who's just so naturally kind of weird and off-putting.
He's really fun to look at.
Shifty. He's
bizarre.
Shifty. He's vaguely threatening. He has this kind of like Arrested Development thing about him. So it was a little more interesting for me to see him interacting with people, just because he is such a more like weird, mysterious character than Dennis Hopper or somebody, or Jack Nicholson in one of the road movies. And I was intrigued, the very first time that he picks up this stranger, convinces this girl that he's going to run away with her, and then takes her back home to get her stuff, and then just takes off while she's gone.
Then he Munsons her, which is like a really weird way to start a movie.
And I'm like, something's wrong with this guy.
This guy's a weird nut job.
Which I thought that was a good
this
scene.
Old couple's house. And
that was a great scene.
He stops at Daisy's parents' house, and at this point,
Daisy
they're
is Chloe
saying that they don't remember him. Yeah, we don't know that at this point. At this point, we don't know if Daisy's even real. We don't know if he actually grew up next to these people like he's claiming, because they don't remember him, and then he claims they visited him. So we're like, all right, is this guy a murderer? Do these people just not remember him?
Right.
But eventually we do get that flashback, just a glimpse of him with Chloe Sevigny. And then I was like, okay, so what's going on is he's just like traveling. He's missing this long lost love for some reason.
Yeah, that's what I got too. And he was taking it right up to the edge with these other women, and then pulling back at the last minute because he was thinking of her. and then it kind of flips itself on its ear later on because you're expecting that. I thought that was actually a good way to kind of write kind of the hill of the movie going kind of up, and then I think when it comes down to it though, it's almost like, I don't know if this is giving it away too much, but it's almost like he's not allowing for that release, right? That satisfaction, like he's, you know what, doing that, and
right.
And then at the end he finally, you think he's going to get that, but then it goes in this way weird direction, but he still does kind of get a closure to it, which is, I think, is kind of brilliant about the movie, even if parts of it annoy me. Like, I can see exactly what he was going for, but even if the execution wasn't perfect.
Yeah, it's true. He is like edging away from these women. Like, they are sort of, at a certain point, he could have them.
He seduces them, and then he just is like, nah, I don't think so.
Oh yeah, he's turning down sex workers, and he finally picks one up and just buys her lunch and kind of aggressively pays her and makes her leave.
But in the end, you think maybe he's doing that just to see if he can still do it. You know, so there's that element of it too.
That's sort of the interesting part of the movie, I think, at least in that first part that keeps me going, is the wondering, like, what is this guy's deal?
Yeah.
Which I can only imagine with a subsequent viewing, once you kind of start to understand what the guy's deal is. I don't know if that would either help or hinder a second viewing, but I read,
for me it would help, because the more I was wondering, the more I liked it. And when it became, at least for what seems for a long stretch to be him just being lonely and heartbroken, that was when I was getting a little bit weary of it, or disappointed.
Yeah, like it was too.
Is that all that's going
too
on
ordinary?
Here?
Mm-hmm.
I think if I was going to rewatch it, it would be more for the mood, like you guys were talking about, the slow cinema, the trippiness, because I really like that part of it, because you don't see people doing that, especially in that way with that type of film stock and all that. It was really kind of a throwback to like 70s, late 60s, and I thought that part was really what I would want to rewatch more than anything, the style of it.
And maybe ideally, I'll probably just fall asleep before we even get to the part that we're dancing around, because I'll just be in such a mood and a vibe, you know.
Yeah, you're just getting in a vibe.
And it might lead into that part to say that I did some research in it. I read that Winona Ryder and Kirsten Dunst were attached to this at different points to play. I mean, just to reiterate that even those like the girl he's going to take to California but doesn't, and the girl at the rest stop are seemingly small little moments in this movie, but I think, so from what I read, it was going to be Winona Ryder and Kirsten Dunst like playing those, which
kidding.
Just shows the like emphasis on those scenes, and it would have added something in a certain respect.
It would have played definitely different. Well, I don't know, man.
Neither of them wanted to work with him. That was like, because part of his stipulations with a lot of this was like again, explaining sort of this paranoid, weird place that this guy's coming from. He wouldn't allow them to like look at the script. He wouldn't allow agents to call them. Only Winona and Kirsten could call him. It's like this weird kind of manipulation thing, it almost feels like. And then Kirsten Dunst agent finally called him, and he was like, well, fuck you. No, your agent called me. We're done. I didn't want agents involved. And it's like this weird, like, possessive boyfriend thing happening, which is what he did with Chloe Sevigny in a certain respect, who is Daisy, who he's throughout the whole journey, he's trying to drive to California to get to Daisy, his old flame or whatever. And one of his stipulations for her being in the movie was like, okay, you're serious with a boyfriend right now. Can't help but do the voice. Like, I don't want him to know about the movie. I don't want you to talk about him. I don't want him to know what you're doing. It's like this, like how did she not think she was going to get like killed or something? He's literally driving around in a van too. Like,
yeah, with like two other guys.
Yeah, that's it.
Wasn't it like a crew of three?
Yeah.
And they just
This doesn't sound like a real
they're driving
movie.
around in the Jackass van, like jumping out at prostitutes or something. It's very strange.
Snuff film Gallo, you know?
I do actually think though that putting those two into those roles would pull me out, because I think the big scene at the end, like the fact that it's her, I think pulls me out more than anything else. Just her voice, and I know she's famous, and I know they have a history together. Like, if it was just that random girl from the beginning, I think it would have hit me completely different than it did. You know, and like I get he's trying to do this big statement and draw attention to it and all this stuff, but I think that's an even bigger drawback than, you know, what most people get offended by in this.
Well, I had a different problem with once we get to this epic hotel room scene, and this whole movie was kind of a roller coaster.
I got your note, bud.
I started out like really getting into it, then kind of cooling a little bit, and then suddenly this mythical Daisy shows up in his room, and you know she's sneaking into the bathroom to smoke. I guess it's supposed to be crack or something.
I guess, yeah.
I don't think they had crack, so
I think
just,
it was.
like,
it
made a joint look like it was bad.
It was a glass pipe, wasn't it? Like, I don't know.
I couldn't really tell. But either way, they go into this long scene where suddenly it's like the way this is unfolding is that she seems way more hung up on him than he is on her. And he's just sulking and whining about her kissing other boys. And it goes on so long. And a lot of it is clearly improvised, which I have a kind of general distaste for, like, obvious improv in movies. Always seems to be so just aimless and repetitive. And I was getting that vibe. And really, I was thinking that this movie was like torpedoing for me. And
I did too. I like, that was where the slow cinema didn't work. It completely just was like, what are you doing? It's like a standstill right here, right now.
Sound like robots. Like...
Yeah. And then we get the infamous unsimulated fellatio scene, which after, you know, with already being kind of worn down by this scene, and it's hard for me not to just have this gut reaction of like, leave Chloe Sevigny alone.
Yeah, it's also kind of rough. It feels awkward, feels kind of pushed. And I mean, but everything that I've read, and Chloe's spoken about it, that like she knew what she was getting into. He explained what they were going to do.
Yes.
They had been intimate before. They had dated.
Does it feel different that you're older though? Like to me, it's like when this came out, it was like some crazy contraband. I could never get my hands on the VHS, and you know I was in my 20s. But now it's just like, it is what it is, right? It doesn't feel as scandalous to me as it would have in 2003. So there's a part of it that's a takeaway from that too. I think the weird part for me though was it kept going afterwards, which I've expected that to be the literal climax, and then it wasn't. So it clearly wasn't his main point when he was making the film.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about how that approach factors into what we learn, which we should probably just get into the big movie spoiling twist now, right? If we've given ample warning for everybody.
Yeah.
Here.
Were you guys expecting it? Have you guys seen this before?
I had not.
Me neither. I was completely blindsided.
I was totally blindsided. Like first time I saw Sixth Sense when I didn't catch the twist type of thing.
Here it was.
And it's like, what? That's what this is?
And the reveal is so offhand and kind of plaintive in its way. And again, at this point, I was thinking like, this movie's going down like at least a half star now. Like it's just
same.
It was really like lost me. And then all of a sudden she, you know, is just laying there, you know, tenderly saying, I died. And like, all of a sudden,
what? Yeah, I know. Like I'm like, okay, I waited so long for this scene, and wait, there's more.
And it got me, you know, it got me.
It got me too, for sure. For sure.
It got me.
I was.
It was like that. Though it was
in any way.
It was so far over the edge, though. It was just so like.
But would you boo that? Though? I don't know. I wouldn't boo.
I don't know if I would.
wouldn't boo
I don't
that.
know.
I think they were booing way before that.
Yes.
I think it had to have been before that, because when it got to the scene, the first, I got your note, bud, and that whole thing just takes so long to pay off, and you're just like, okay, I saw it already. Like, move on. It had to be during that, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
This was after like a half hour of just the driving and stuff that people were already sick of.
Right.
And then you're like,
Right.
she's a fucking ghost. He's been jacking off by himself.
But really, she's just like in his mind or his memory. It's not. I don't think we're supposed to literally look at it. But it
changes
like a ghost.
the whole outlook you have on the character, though. That's what I think.
And
is brilliant. Like, the people that give this 5 stars, that's probably why, right? Because I look at my Letterboxd friends, and it's a lot of 5s and a lot of 1s. But you could almost pinpoint the 2 spots where someone would be like, "Holy crap, that's incredible," and the other person would be like, "What? This is obnoxious drivel stupidity." And that's what's interesting about it.
I was just thinking, oh, thank God this wasn't just about him sulking about her kissing other boys.
Yes.
And that actually was this weird, like, defense mechanism of him processing this, if you want to look at it that way. And just so many of the reservations I had to that point, all of a sudden in retrospect, seem more purposeful. And I don't know if I still would really need to rewatch it, though, to see if it fully enriches the entire experience, because still in the moment things were not as interesting for me at times, and I'm not sure how much you can just retrospectively go back.
I agree. I don't
justify.
I think the whole hotel room scene, like, basically brings like a star to a star and a half off of it. Like, if they would have figured out another way to do that, it did get me back. But if they figured out another way to do that, I think this could be literally a 5-star film for me. Yeah, because I love the ending that much.
It's so bizarre how it just pops up out of nowhere, and I don't know if I like it just for being so audacious and
that's how I feel.
And the way it is,
like, I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, it is just so like poof, there it is. It's not handled in some sort of film convention way.
You like this rabbit Vincent has in his hand?
He pulled it out of his hat.
Yes.
But it does do something there, even if it is. I mean, there's a sadness to the big scene, which is, and it goes round and round because it's criticized and will be criticized forever as this is the ultimate hubris for a director to star in his movie and get the hot it girl, Chloe Sevigny,
ridiculous,
to be in my movie and suck me off, and everyone's going to watch me for minutes on end getting sucked off by this beautiful woman. But the twist of the movie is that he's actually just a lonely fuck jacking off in a hotel all by himself, and it's super sad in that context.
Which is actually probably quite realistic in some ways. In certain people, certain people probably had that experience for someone.
It's probably what happened to him after this movie.
Hey, can you imagine if Vincent did his version of this when he had his FU money after Good Will Hunting?
Oh my God.
What would happen?
A Robin Williams unsimulated blowjob.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Like
it's not your fault.
He's talking like a lad. Laddie.
Oh God. So yeah, in the end, I really did almost tear up when I was so caught off guard by that. And
whoa, really, Mark?
Yeah.
Oh my God! I did not expect this out of you at all.
Mm-hmm.
This is a twist.
I was going to be embarrassed.
Have you been dead the whole time, Mark?
I'm so glad you said that, because I was going to be embarrassed to say how much I liked the ending of it.
Yeah. No, I totally did. And it's weird to look back on it or to try to describe it too, because it does sound so gimmicky, but
it's a feel. The
way it's handled, I think, was really low key and effective. And again, it elevated so many things that I was not vibing with at that point, to the where I can say, I liked the Brown Bunny. I didn't love it, but there was a lot there. And I think it's worth pointing out that Ebert watched the recut version and gave it a positive review and said that, he found the movie in here and he deserves credit, for saying that. And we will never see the version that's isn't like that. So anyone going in expecting this to be a disaster, like I don't think is going to see it.
No,
I don't see how you could hate this in this version. Maybe not like it.
I don't. If it wasn't 93 minutes, I probably would never want to watch it again.
I mean, I could definitely see someone hating this movie still. I can definitely see someone.
I can too.
Like,
I can too, because there's parts that are definitely
whether
hateable.
it's the slow cinema aspect of it, boring an everyday audience member, or just there is this hubris, especially if you know anything about Vincent and him being a troublemaker with women and being really abusive, and it being sort of hinging around. I do think it does this sort of backflip in the end, but there is this sort of watching him for the first stretch of the movie just being cool and then denying women one after another is like, feels like he's up his own ass in this really gross way, which again, it works for me by the end and it all kind of clicks together. Yeah. But without that, I could totally see like, if I wasn't doing this for a podcast, might turn it off. I don't know.
Well, I think, too, it hit me a little bit, too, because at the end there's this throwaway line where he basically said he quit drinking. And it made me kind of think of – that's why I brought it up before, the leaving Las Vegas thing. It made me kind of see it through that eyes. He's taking this sad road trip to wherever, like, you know, kind of like Cage does to Vegas. And then, you know, once you see that ending, you're like, oh, he's just really, really freaking sad. But he's never going to go down that road again with those friends and that thing. And he's still trying to move on and move to the next part of his life, and he can't. And that kind of thing really, really got me.
And I don't know if either of you have read about what the original ending to this was, because I kind of held this back to talk to about this point because...
Ooh, what do you got?
The film originally continued past that freeze frame at the end, you know, of him just driving around.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that I could see, like, somebody seeing this ending after already not liking the movie and then coming out and saying, this was the biggest piece of shit that I've ever had to sit through here. And I'm not making this up. I have this from a good source that, so originally that shot continues on, and his van smashes into something and gets into a terrible wreck where he is presumed dead. And
that's hubris right there. That's Sea of Trees.
The last thing you see is a little brown bunny crawling out of the wreck.
Well, he turned into a bunny.
Well, I don't know if he turned into it.
There's no way.
I want to believe.
You made that up.
I did not make this up.
Life finds
As a matter of fact, my source is Mike D'Angelo, who wrote on a Letterboxd. Somewhere on Letterboxd, someone asked him what the original ending was.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
He was there. He saw it, and
that's I would give it a half star if that happened.
See, once again, right? Though, I would say that has the that has the Vincent Gallo treatment, or at least the Brown Bunny treatment for me, because it initially it does this stupid thing where he dies in the end he gets crushed by an ambulance, but then a brown bunny comes out of the car. that's like Chloe Sevigny coming out as a ghost at the end for me. That's like the one push over the edge that somehow saves it.
You would have liked the titular symbolic brown bunny hopping around being the last thing.
What if you find out that him and Chloe had a kid, and that kid was standing there eating a chocolate Easter bunny?
Oh fuck!
That was the ending. What about that?
That would be not any worse than
that's true.
That ending. Wouldn't. And you have to give credit to Gallo that this was a passion project, and after he endured this absolute disaster of a press after this, and actually being there in the theater while people were booing it or leaving, instead of being a defiant troll about it, he actually went and thoroughly recut the movie, got rid of the stupid ending, admitted it didn't work, and came out with a pretty good to decent movie.
Which seems to go against everything I know about him. Yeah.
Right? I know. I applaud him for that. I mean, whatever convinced him to do that, I don't know. But, I mean, it was the best decision for the movie, that's for sure.
especially in light of the movie he made after this, which is an even crazier story, which you might not have even ever heard of, because he made a movie called Promises Written in Water that, again, he directed, wrote, starred in. I think he wrote it in 2010. It played at 2 festivals. It did get some polarizing response from critics, and he has refused to release it ever since. And literally nobody has ever seen it except the audiences at those first 2 screenings. And he has decided he's not going to put it out. And it's been 14 years now, and he has kept his word.
There's something cool about that, though, because it's like you saw the band play, and then they broke up after 2 shows, and you were one of the only ones that was in the audience. I mean,
but they had a finished final album they never let anyone hear.
Yeah,
I even heard rumors that there's like other projects. There's like another movie that came out and maybe was only shown to friends or something, which is interesting. It's an interesting reaction to this, like, which a lot of people do not do. It's just like, oh, okay, you don't fucking want it, then I'll just still make it. I'm just not going to show it to you. I'm just going to show it to my friends in a living room, which is, I don't know, kind of cool.
I feel like that would happen with a band, but not really with a film.
Yeah.
Like, because so many, if there's an entire crew that works on it and a bunch of millions of dollars gets pumped into it, I mean, that's got to be kind of a rarity, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, so many other people participate in the making of a film too, for one person to make it literally unwatchable.
What? Vincent's an artist, though, man. That's what he is, I guess. I don't know how you go like multiple decades without even doing anything, and still people still remember you.
And still have almost like a mansion in Arizona, apparently, where he collects.
He's like a Terrence Malick.
He collects
sold a lot of sperm.
Pre-Civil War audio equipment or something. I don't even know what that means.
Oh God, he's like a Nick Cage dinosaur skull guy.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Self-made man. Well,
he's
big old prick.
He's
man.
apparently working on a movie now, according to terrible internet research I did.
Oh, really?
But
I might have heard something about some rumblings about that. And hey,
coming to an Illuminati living room near you.
In production. Yeah, I don't know if I believe it, because I don't think when was the last time he was in the movie? It's got to be 10 years, at least 15.
I don't really know about the acting.
Yeah.
I've heard that he was in various things. I heard that he was actually in the runnings to play Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, I heard that too. God, that would have been fun.
That would have been so amazing. Just him like arguing with Kip and Napoleon. Yeah. You gotta get some Pampers for your brother. You gotta get some Pampers for your brother. I can just hear it. It'd be so good.
Could he pull off an ex-football player throwing a ball over the mountains, though?
Over the mountains.
Over the mountains.
Well, so I don't think any of us are gonna. No one's gonna be unwatching this, right?
No.
But I still hold that it's absolutely insane.
It's ludicrous, but it's actually pretty decent, I think. I actually liked it.
Yeah, I did too, and I wasn't expecting to. And
me either.
I want to see his other movie, and honestly, it's a shame he hasn't made a movie in so long. If he came out with a new film, whether it was the old one or something new, it would go right up to number 1 on like, I'm going to see this.
Yeah.
I would be so excited about it.
Yeah.
Well, it would be interesting at the very least.
Yes. It would be him. And to segue, I don't think anybody has reclaimed the Sea of Trees in recent years.
No.
I don't know anybody that's even seen it.
It has vanished. I mean, after it did have its own, debacle at Cannes, and I think it ended up not even getting released by the distributors who were initially going to pick it up.
It's on Max right now. It pissed me off because I found a DVD copy for like $5 that I bought, and then I was shooting through Max the other day, and now it's on there. Like I don't know who
A24 snatched it up,
randomly come across it, and just Literally never heard it before Seth brought it up to me. I had no idea.
Apparently it grossed $825,000 on a $25 million budget. So
you got to pay
there's
McConaughey.
Oof. Oh
but
my God.
I don't know. Doesn't it seem though like something that middlebrow Oscar, watchers or voters might have appreciated if
it might have if it didn't get booed into non-existence.
Right. Yeah, I have to wonder if it was a sort of viral thing, like word of mouth thing. Because I don't know what you guys think. I think it's just a regular kind of shitty Oscar bait movie, not anything all that transcendently offensive or like audacious or just I don't know. It's just a laugh affirming McConaughey and going through suicide, coming out the other end. Like your wife has cancer.
That sounds good.
I don't think it gets really ridiculous until the final stretch.
Oh yeah,
it had me for a little while. I mean, had me for a little while.
I almost was like, these are only linked in the way that they did get some booze at Cannes, but nothing like Brown Bunny's like wild reception. But then I watched Sea of Trees, and they are linked in this crazy way with their twists. I had no idea.
Right? Yeah, I had no idea.
We'll get to that. I don't know if we give a shit about spoiling Sea of Trees.
So like the robot chicken Shyamalan twist.
Gotcha.
That one's got like three twists and a twist.
But if you know a lot about Gus Van Sant's filmography, then I think this does make sense because it's like for every masterpiece that he's made, there's either a complete explosion in the movie lab, like whether it's Psycho or Only Cowgirls Get the Blues is one I hear about a lot. I haven't seen it, but
we'd like to do that on the podcast.
Its reputation is of a just complete.
I think I saw it in college, but I don't remember it at all. It was like 95 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have to rewatch that one.
And then on the other hand, he has this whole other career of kind of inoffensive Oscar bait movies like Good Will Hunting or Milk or Finding Forrester, if anyone's seen that.
You're batting 1,000, dog.
Shrug,
Yeah. And so I think this is kind of a combination of the two where it has like some real nonsense going on that would makes it kind of memorably bad in the end. But until then, this is very much like a prestige film. Like the score is so overbearing in this. It almost feels like it's from a different era. Like this was like Chris Columbus directed.
Yeah, the score kind of ruins a lot of it, I think.
It's again the Good Son. I love that this keeps coming up on our podcast. Is that it's the Good Son style? It's just a very certain kind of soundtrack that happens, theatrical soundtrack that happens in these prestige drama movies. Where it's
I don't know.
It's the sad moment, so the sad portion is playing.
Soaring
and it's the happy
strings,
moment.
Twinkly piano, and now something whimsical is happening.
The funny part is when it does that,
or not.
and McConaughey falls down the rocks, and he's like, and the weird soundtrack is playing.
Oh yeah, it is.
I kind of started laughing.
It even has the font, like the kind of cheesy, cheap-looking font at the beginning, like the Good Son has.
Yep.
Yeah, and, I actually think there's three. Well, I did already write about this one on Letterboxd. I think there's three Van Sants. There's the indie sad boy, the punk rock misfit, and the what did I call it? The heroic schmaltz man. That must be the one you're thinking, the prestige guy. And I think this one, out of all of it, like he tries to mix them together because like there's something punk about dudes go into the forest to kill themselves, and two dudes go in the forest to kill themselves, and they meet each other. That sounds like a cool movie.
Yeah. But
then it turns into like four other movies, and they barely have anything to do with each other other than McConaughey's in them. It's like the survival movie. It's like a Shyamalan movie. It's like a prestige picture. It's
hackneyed relationship drama.
Yeah, I would agree that there's
the cancer movie, the dealing with cancer movie that gets 10 minutes in the film. And it's
Naomi Watts. Like,
I can see. Look, I was reading all the reviews on Letterboxd. There aren't a ton of them, but somebody mentioned that this script was on the 2013 what do you call it, the blacklist of all the best scripts, and I wonder if that was just because of the twists. It had to have been, because who else would read that and be like, oh, this looks amazing. This is one of the best unproduced screenplays I've ever seen. Because
I hear about movies from that blacklist all the time that are like the worst movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, like what?
So.
Like who could read that and be like, it just is nonsense. It's just like the scene with the cell phone. Like,
it's the twist. It's the twist.
yeah.
It's so, but it's like, what else were they going to do after they said, that she survived or whatever the surgery? Like, you know that she's going to die, but, oh, here you go. Here's the cell phone. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to follow your ambulance. Oh, gee, I wonder what's going to happen.
Oh, my God.
That was just so offensive to me as a viewer.
That's honestly the stupidest thing in the whole movie.
It's so bad. Barbaric.
Like the trench coat orchid thing, I'm fine with the trench coat orchid thing. That's kind of mystical or whatever. But, like, that was just so blatantly stupid with the ambulance thing that it visibly angered me way more than anything that the brown bunny could do to me.
Well, assuming that most of our audience, like most of the world, hasn't seen this movie,
let's go back.
The basic gist of it is Matthew McConaughey going to what's a real life forest in Japan that's infamous for people going there to kill themselves, to the point where they have signs around like encouraging you to look back on your life and to get help and to not do it. And it is a real place, although they filmed this in like Massachusetts, because there's no way Japan was going to let them go to their suicide forest.
What was the funny phrase from one of that signs? I got to find that. God, it was hilarious. It was something like your parents gave you your life and it's precious. You shouldn't waste it. Or it was some really weird thing.
I wonder if those are word for word what's in the real forest. I don't know.
It looked like the real, maybe they're the real signs, but it looked like that. It was just like a bad translation or something.
Yeah, it could be a translation issue.
But
so before he can kill himself, he runs into Ken Watanabe, poor Ken Watanabe, who gets nothing to do in this movie but just be this kind of like the Japanese equivalent of like a magical Negro type.
Yes, he is literally mystical in this movie,
like the Graham Greene Native American guy.
Yeah,
yes,
from like, yeah, it's just you feel bad for him because he's such a good actor and he's given such a lousy spot in the story.
Yeah,
so they get lost and learn how to live while we flash back to why Matthew McConaughey is so depressed, which is that he's in a bad relationship with his wife. And then all of a sudden, the day that she's getting an MRI, they're in a perfect marriage all of a sudden. And it's a tragic, thing that they're going through. Just total whiplash.
It was.
Yes. And it's just...
They fixed it all. Dull. No problem. It is.
Their fights were probably the realest thing in the movie. What'd you guys think about? I thought they were actually really well done. Like it was almost like it was from a completely different movie.
Yes, I think there were certain melodramatic moments that rang true and kind of worked. If you could pull them out of the context of this loopy movie, like even something just as innocuous as him rifling through the glove box for something she asked him to find, and he doesn't find it, and the whole thing is like it's just to show that, and she exposes it. It's like he doesn't care. He's like in a state. He's just kind of going through the motions. He doesn't want to help her with things. I thought some of it worked. I mean, they are good actors. These are good acters. These are huge actors. Like it's wild to see them in a movie that is so unknown.
It felt wasted. Like Marc said, like then all of a sudden after they had these really like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf type fights, and all of a sudden like. Then they're just madly in love with each other and looking at photographs, and it was like I don't know, it's like editing was like a hatchet job. Yeah,
literally the moment that she's going into an MRI machine for the first time, they're holding hands and
she was laughing.
It's a Thomas Kincaid painting and everything's twinkling. I'm like, what the hell happened in between here?
I know
exactly. It's almost like they just hacked out like 20 minutes of their story. But I think that it had to be how the script was, or the movie would have been like 4 hours long. So I think just the writing has got to be the worst part of it. Don't you guys think?
Yeah, the whole Hallmark aspect of it is a whiplash, because I do think I agree with you, Andy, that there is even in some respect, like all of Van Sant is on display. Like the whole suicide forest at the beginning almost feels like we're touching on maybe the Death trilogy, right? Like Jerry, or like where we could be getting into some sort of weird zone like that, a morbid territory.
Elephant.
And also, it's worth saying that, and I wonder if this plays into certain aspects of this movie's Frankenstein nature. It's an A24 movie.
They only picked it up after the distributor dropped it.
Yeah.
It wasn't?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't think it was
struck
shot like
me
that.
at certain points, like especially the really over the top, like brutal ambulance scene and everything felt like they were almost trying to do.
I think they probably
a real shitty Ari Aster thing.
Yeah, like they picked it up to make a cheap buck because they had all those big names in it.
Yep.
Yeah, A24 should be releasing the new Gus Van Sant movie, just not this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wonder if he'll make another movie.
Oh,
well, he made one more after. One more after this. He made the one with Joaquin Phoenix and Jonah Hill. The "Don't Worry, You Won't Get Far on Foot," which I haven't seen. None of the reviews really moved me to see it.
I've seen it. I actually liked it, but again, that I watched it when I was kind of going through getting sober and stuff, and that's kind of a big part of that guy's story. It's based on a real life guy, so it's almost like, in the same Vincent thing, the same thing he does with like Milk, or like Take a Real Person, that type of thing. It's more like a Milk type of movie, but it's way better than See It Treats.
I can only assume.
Well, and I wanted to lay I want to put like most of the blame on the screenwriter, who is I think his name's Chris Sparling. He's written a lot of movies. Almost all of them seem to be like hacky, like single gimmick thrillers, like ATM or Buried, the one where Ryan Reynolds is like in a coffin or something for the whole movie. They all have titles like The Desperate Hour or The Atticus Institute. And I don't know. Nobody, based on this, I'm not really tempted to like question the popular wisdom that those movies are all kind of hacky.
It makes you wonder how that guy got twirled up with Gus Van Sant, though. I mean,
well, that's the thing, because Van Sant, though, he has a history with movies that aren't starting with great material, and at a certain point, you have to expect that he should be able to know that an idea like, hey, you know that Suicide Forest, the real one in Japan? Well, okay, get this. What if it was actually like a magical, benevolent forest that helped you find your will to live again?
Yes.
I love you describing it that way.
But so only if you're Matthew McConaughey. It's still littered with corpses. But
everybody
Matthew McConaughey, they want to help.
Perfectly content with killing themselves. Yeah.
Hey, I found Skeletor in this tent over here. It gets so weird. Like, but it makes you think, though. I'm wondering, though, if he thought, Van Sant, that he would make this and this could lead to his next like experimental thing that he was going to do. Like, do you feel like he kind of did that with like Finding Forrester and to some extent Good Will Hunting? Like, is that why he does it? Because some filmmakers do that, one for them, one for me type of thing.
I feel like he's been doing like 10 for them though. Like lately, when was the last Van Sant?
But some of it is just so
Van Sant going for it. It's been forever.
It was Paranoid Park in 2007, I think. And
I still haven't seen that one.
It's amazing.
It's great.
It's good?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to watch that next.
That's the last Van Sant movie for me.
That's the last good one?
In that tradition of him doing one for him. And I don't know why he's sort of dried up in this way. Because it doesn't seem like he can't work. It doesn't seem like he can't get things financed.
Is he producing more? Or maybe he's doing something like that.
I mean, he's made 4 movies since then, but they've all been pretty forgettable to the point
nobody
where
cared
I
about
haven't
him.
wanted to see them.
Nobody really cared about Paranoid Park, though, did they?
I mean, that was critically acclaimed, at least.
Critically, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely seen there with his Death trilogy and like fans of Idaho and all that.
I think the last one I cared about like that was probably Elephant. But I definitely need to see Paranoid Park for sure.
Yeah, I recommend.
Yeah.
And
It's actually 5 films he's made since then. I forgot about Milk.
Oh yeah, Milk. That was okay. It wasn't the greatest thing ever, but
yeah.
It's the kind of thing that would win Sean Penn an Oscar playing a gay guy.
Yeah, it's not weird, Van Sant.
Am I wrong in feeling like this movie would come out? This feels like a movie that should have happened in the 80s or 90s with like, I don't know, like 90s, Michael 90s. Douglas or something.
Like it should have been right around The Game or Sixth Sense. This should have came out.
This feels like a movie from then, the way the tones work and the more like schmaltzy.
But even those didn't have
four different
storylines and 3 different twists, and
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, geez.
Yeah, I mean, until the twist, it's all just very kind of monotonous and
generic.
You know, all of the stuff with him walking around with Ken Watanabe is just him giving these boring monologues about a nice memory about laundry that his wife did for him. And
did you guys like the bonfire speech he gave? I thought that was decent. I mean, I
think that's the one I'm talking about.
Is that the one you're talking about? I think that's where
when
like a good actor kind of elevates. Yeah. And his glasses are all cracked. Like, I think a good actor kind of can elevate crappy material sometimes. And I kind of felt like that about that scene.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, like once he gets to the whole like I'm sorry thing, it goes really far. But it's like you kind of wish. Save it for another movie, Matthew. Save it for another movie. Like,
what would you guys have thought if it was just those dudes walking around the forest? What do you think you liked it better, or do you think it still would have sucked?
I mean, that's like half the movie missing, so it really depends how they filled that time.
Well, it would probably be, this still be the flashbacks, I guess, but it wouldn't be like
for me,
14 different stories.
The biggest problem for me does lie with the like wife with cancer. But it seems just so, for the most part, generic in such a way. Not that the Suicide Forest is all that well done. It still is like interesting. There's something going on there where you're pulled to see like, okay, it's mystical. Why is Matthew here? And you could have done that through conversation between these two characters, and like, oh, why is the other guy here? And like that whole thing. That though. Is like that could have been interesting if it wasn't for the whole really silly, like Marc said, like mystical Asian guy aspect of it, that he was never so there, and who done. Just like his only conversation pieces are surrounded. It's just like him saying, well, there are spirits and they are here and they never leave us. And it's just to everything that white guy Matthew McConaughey is confused by, just like
he's teaching the tourist.
Is so silly.
Did you kind of feel bad for Naomi though? Like I almost like when I was thinking like, oh my God, she had to shave her head for this. Like I feel so bad for her.
For Sea of Trees.
Did she?
I don't know if she did or not, but that's like the thought that came into my head was like, she's watching it back and she's like, oh my God, I shaved my head for this.
It's a thankless role, and
I think somehow she's okay in one of her houses right now.
This has the most this is literally maybe one of the top 5 like most egregious hackneyed twists that I can even think of.
Let's get to the twist.
Movie, which is when we're basically led to believe that she died of cancer, and we think that we're never going to even see her again in the movie. Like we've just skipped over that part, and surprise, we come back and she actually beat it. Or it turns out the tumor was not malignant.
Yeah.
So
and then they're like, hell yeah.
She's getting driven out in the ambulance, and all of a sudden it becomes this long, drawn-out scene where Matthew McConaughey's driving behind her, talking to her on his cell phone. And it's going on so long. You're
I'm
like
right behind you, and you're just like, I know.
Can you see me? I can see you.
You're
see
over
you.
there in the ambulance. In traffic.
And then they get plowed into by a truck and she dies. I mean,
do you know what?
How can you read or write something like that and not realize how stupid it is?
Do you guys ever see City of Angels? Like when I think Nicolas Cage is in it.
Oh, that's the remake of the Wim Wenders
when they get
Wings of Desire?
When she gets plowed by the truck, I remember sitting in the theater laughing out loud at that. And that's the only time I could think of ever laughing at a scene like that before watching Sea of Trees. because it was so obvious and ridiculous and annoying.
See, for me, it's like it's offensive on this level of like talking down to a Hallmark audience, like my grandma or something, trying to explain, like, well, what could possibly drive someone to suicide? What could ever be the reason? And of course, there's no nuance sort of like clinical depression going on here. There's no just like, can't just even leave it at cancer. It's got to be like, she was almost okay, and then she was killed in a horrible auto accident right before my very eyes.
Fell on her.
Yes. And then grandma can kind of start to see why someone might want to kill themselves, which is just like,
it was like a Looney Tunes
and
twist.
Unneeded.
Yeah, I mean, is that your guys' boo point?
Oh yeah,
that's got to be right.
Huge.
Oh, yeah,
even more so than
I was almost
twist.
buying and like willing to go along with, okay, this is just what this movie is. It's kind of got the lame mom Hallmark thing of like, you know, the wife's going to die of cancer and a very sad, but, you know, as far as the movie's concerned, generic sort of way. I was willing to let that go. And if anything, it was going to wrap up in a sort of inoffensive and I don't know, not all that doesn't stick out all that much, but pow. Pow.
Yeah, I think I was there with you too, man, because if you take that part out of it, I was still kind of buying into it a little bit. Like maybe they just have her, oh, she had a heart attack or she had, you know, high blood pressure, she got a stroke, whatever. But then to take it and do that with it, like why? Why go
That's
so...
the thing. It makes no difference how she dies, so it's completely gratuitous.
Yeah.
Right, as if it's not like, bad enough. As if dying of cancer is not bad enough.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, and it's like, come on, what other? I mean, who would be sitting there not thinking that ambulance was going to get smoked by a truck or a bus or whatever? Like, there's no other way. Like, it's almost like they painted themselves in the corner. They went so over the top. They painted themselves. Yeah, they painted themselves all the way in the corner, and then they went whoosh, Gatorade dump.
Feels like I think you should leave or something.
The first thing that came to my mind just when we first get the news that it looks like she is not actually going to die, like that very first. And I'm thinking, okay, obviously something still horrible is going to happen. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be kind of interesting? They beat this tragedy that we were expecting, and we think that their life is going to be great now, but then their marriage crumbles again. Or it's like one tragedy. It doesn't just take some storybook, you know, well, now we really appreciate the meaning of life. Now things go back to normal and we realize we're not really meant for each other. And that is devastating to him. But that's so far beyond this movie's like emotional intelligence that it would ever consider doing. No, she got hit. We pull back and it's fucking a 9/11, you know.
Hilarious.
Like the end of Remember Me, like the plane is just like we pull back and she's at the airport and we see it September 11th. That's the level this movie is on.
It's like 10 writers got in a room and thought, what's the corniest thing? Like, what's the most terrible, obvious, corniest thing we could possibly do right here? And
make grandma cry.
Make grandma cry. Exactly. So
really, after that, you know, was anybody not expecting Ken Watanabe to be a ghost or something that's just out there to help him? I don't think that's a very
in a sort of Brown Bunny-esque sort of way.
Not ever start catching on to that.
Differently done than the Brown Bunny, I would say. But
I can't believe Van Sant Brown Bunnied me.
Well, I was starting to think that he was a ghost right in the beginning, weren't you guys? Like, because why else would?
Oh yeah.
I mean.
No,
there's no way he was going to have the two of them be. There's no way there's going to have the two guys just walking around the whole movie again. Like, there's no way he would probably pull those big stars for that.
He was so focused
I didn't think that. I just thought they were bad screenwriters.
Well,
it can be both. It can be both.
It can be all.
It is. Yeah. It is both in this one. It is.
It is pretty bad.
It's a bad ghost and a bad script.
Yeah, by the time we get to that egregious twist, it's like it almost doesn't even seem as bad because of what happens to Naomi Watts.
Oh, that scene is so silly when he's just going back and forth.
What about the orchid?
They give so much to that actress who is just the receptionist at the hospital.
Yellow Winter.
Yes.
Yellow Winter, guys.
Yellow Winter. I know. The receptionist just keeps going on and on about just like, no, there was no one. There was no one. You were there. What? What do you mean? We saw you. There's footage of you walking into the forest. It just goes on and on.
What about
like
the
waiting
funeral
for you
director?
To give the like.
She did happen to mention what her favorite child's book was.
Oh yes.
And then he in the package was Hansel and Gretel.
No, not even child's book. He wants to know what her favorite book is, and this adult's favorite book is Hansel and Gretel.
No wonder you guys didn't get along. I also love that he's on the plane reading it, and I just imagine it just feels like he's been reading it like, all right, finally, chapter 4. I've been really reading through this book here.
But who picks yellow and winter? Like, all I think about is dog pee.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that. Can you explain yellow winter to me? What happened?
That's her favorite season and her favorite color.
Oh, man,
so
that's so
Matthew
dumb.
McConaughey is all hung up about how he doesn't really know his wife. And he said, I didn't really know her because I didn't know her favorite color and season. And it turns out that his ghost friend gave him names that he thought were his ghost friend's children, but it turns out they were the Japanese words for her favorite color and season, which you're right. Calling it yellow winter, aren't you just thinking about pea snow at that point?
Yellow snow.
Yeah.
Frank's
Don't eat
apple.
the yellow snow. Yeah.
And then he flips it over and it says, by the way, I fucked her.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty cool twist.
Yeah, I was like, a third twist. Oh my God.
And then,
that'd be like twist number 6.
It was also 9/11.
Yeah.
So it happened.
I fucked her
weird
in
how
heaven,
twice
and we have a very happy relationship, and she doesn't drink anymore.
No.
Twice it was 9/11 in this
or
movie.
smoke
Lots of
crack.
twists.
No.
No crack
And
racks.
so apparently the big gift that the ghost gives you is letting you know that your dead wife's favorite color was yellow. Wonderful. And her favorite season out of what? 4 seasons? Or what are there, 5 seasons? How many seasons are there?
But guys, her favorite place to sit was their cabin on the lake in summer. But her favorite season was winter. How does that
Who likes winter, first of all? And yeah, he goes out and looks at the flowers, and then the flower is also
the orchid.
linked
What
to
about the trench coat? The trench coat orchid.
Yeah,
that was a nice touch.
Yeah, he pulls it off, and it's like, oh shit, I was hallucinating. Those pills are dangerous.
He ate some shrooms out there.
One other thing that I remember I really laughed at, it's kind of a random thing to bring up, but when his like inspiration for going to the forest in particular is that she's saying that she doesn't care about dying. She doesn't want to die in a room surrounded by doctors who have to be there because they're at work. And she says, promise me when it's your time, it will be the perfect place, which in this context is she's just making him promise not to get life-saving surgery if he's ever going to face a serious illness. And
it's not really
what he does in response to this is he Googles the phrase "a perfect place to die."
So he goes to the suicide place.
And the suicide forest is what comes up first. And he's like, all right. The perfect place to die.
I was on Reddit the other night, and they're just telling me where to go.
Can I have life-saving surgery in the suicide forest? Will that count?
I know, yeah. And it still is like, well, what's he going to do? He's just still going to die somewhere.
What about when he's sitting on the rock just taking the pills one by one, and I kept thinking like when he met Ken, he was going to be all messed up, but he wasn't. He was like totally normal. Like, what was he taking?
Yeah,
did they
he
even
accidentally
say?
brought Cialis.
Yeah, I wrestled really hard, actually, probably more hard than the movie deserved with that final like want of hers. I was like, well, maybe she means like be in the perfect place mentally, like be a better person. It was just like, that doesn't really track either. Like, it's just sort of
none of it works.
Flops.
It's all these corny different segments that someone jammed together in a big ball, like Pee Wee Herman's tinfoil ball, and tried to hide it in a closet, and then it popped out and killed him.
It really made me think of like a Nicholas Sparks movie.
It could be.
This would be one of those Nicholas Sparks like young adult novels that has like a really stupid twist at the end and is super maudlin and sentimental. And I hope that Gus Van Sant gets his shit together at some point, because we're like 5 movies of just mush now.
Would you feel worse about that or the Psycho remake if you were him?
Oh man, I love the Psycho remake compared to this.
I do too, but like he probably lost way more money on the other one, right? I don't know what the budget was, but it's probably had more money.
I don't know.
Well, it's 98 versus 2015, so I don't know. But that was like a big, huge release, right? This one never really even got that, I don't think.
No.
Probably more people know about the Psycho remake than about the Sea of Trees.
Yeah.
Definitely. But maybe he'll remake it one day, shot for shot.
The Sea of
that'd
Trees?
be sick.
With Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
I would. Vince Vaughn is Ken Watanabe.
That'd be so cool. But he doesn't. Yeah, he's just Vince Vaughn.
But he's just Vince Vaughn.
Swingers in the end, this becomes a just thoroughly mediocre, from a thoroughly mediocre movie to at least like a memorably bad, big budget studio movie, at least as far as, introspective dramas go. And there's at least something a little, it makes it easier to kind of laugh at in a way that's enjoyable. Like, it's just so misconceived at the end. And it's also is a little too late, because the rest of it can just be boring. It's not like
it's just
the Book of Henry.
That's probably the biggest problem I have with the movie, and why I can't really. I would probably say I would unwatch it maybe, just to get the time back, because I couldn't really recommend this to anybody any more than just if there was just the ludicrous final ambulance scene on YouTube or something. That's really the only thing here that is egregious and wild, along with the ghost twist, the brown bunny twist that invaded this movie and tied these 2 movies to our podcast forever on accident. I had no idea about either of the twists, but yeah, that's the thing. That's like the only really unwatchable part of this. The rest is just unwatchable for not fun reasons. Like, it's just a movie I wouldn't care about and wouldn't want to see and wouldn't want to finish, really.
I gave it a bad grade, but I still gave it a heart, because it's like, I've never seen anything like that before.
It is weird.
But I mean, I would say unwatch, because I can imagine if I was a lifelong Van Sant fan and I flew to Cannes, it's my first Cannes Film Festival, and that's the piece of shit that I have to watch. That would really maybe make me boo, more so than the Brown Bunny.
Those tickets
apparently
aren't cheap.
There was booing. Yeah. Lots of French boos.
Boo. Le boo. Le boo. Where is my 15-year-old girlfriend?
But yeah, I wouldn't. It's too close to just mediocrity, I guess, for me to unwatch it, which makes it unmemorable until the end. But still not necessarily something I'm going to get super riled up about.
No.
So
yeah, for completists only. Van Sant completists.
Truly.
Absolutely. Or Matthew McConaughey completists. That is one other thing I realized, is that, the kind of McConaughey started around 2011 with Killer Joe, and he did this movie coming right off of winning the Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club. He was in Wolf of Wall Street and Interstellar and True Detective, all in a row. And then he did this, and ever since, look at his filmography. It's like some cameos, The Dark Tower, Serenity, which is a way more memorable bad movie than this is. It's like he really kind of fell off after this.
It's almost like the Matt Damon thing. Remember when Matt Damon would work? It seemed like he wanted to work with great directors, but the the director always made their crappiest film when Damon was in it for a while. That's what it seems like with this. He's like, I bet you he really wanted to work with Van Sant, and then he probably didn't even read the script. Like George Clooney, Coen brother, the script, and was just like, sign me up. And then he was just locked in, and he had to do it.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe he got the bad luck of being in one of the bad movies by like sometimes great
Matt
director.
Damon.
No, I could believe that. Mm-hmm.
He did all that stuff, like All the Pretty Horses and Bagger Vance and all these things. He thought he was making something good, and it turned out to be just slop, like this is.
This is like Bagger Vance, only it has a mystical Asian, and instead of baseball or golf or whatever, it's a suicide forest.
Will Smith.
Yeah.
Suicide Forest.
Have you guys seen The Forest? I kind of want to see that now. Like, I guess there's another movie called The Forest that is about that same place.
Oh no!
A horror
it's gotta
movie.
be better than this, though.
Yeah. I think I'm going to check that one out next.
What if it has the same twist?
Glutton for Punishment. Can't possibly have as many twists as this, though.
So are we three
the
on
real
watches
twist
on this?
is that
I think we're three on watches.
No, I'm not on watching this. It's two.
Oh, okay. I'm light. I'm a light unwatch. I just think I could have used my time better.
Yeah, I'm only an unwatch because it's Van Sant. If it wasn't Van Sant, I probably wouldn't be an unwatch because it's just so, like you said, unmemorable. Mediocre.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, the real twist is that one of these ended up being good.
Yeah.
At least as far as Andy and I feel. I think we were.
I wasn't expecting that
about it.
Yeah, I think so.
And Seth.
I mean, I like it for my weird Seth reasons and stuff. So I'm just surprised you like actually think it's good, Mark. Because I think it's like interesting in a lot of ways, and I think some of it's really smart. I don't know if like it all connects necessarily, but
I wouldn't say it's good, but
not good,
yeah.
but maybe good.
Yeah,
instead of bad. This is good film cinema talk right here.
Surprise!
This is where the commentary, the DVD commentary starts, which we were talking earlier. So you got the DVD. Apparently, there's a Japanese version of the DVD of Brown Bunny that you can get, and Vincent Gallo does a director's commentary on it, and that
would be awesome.
It's supposedly like the holy grail of like director's commentaries, because midway through he's just talking about how shitty his life is after the movie Brown Bunny, and how I haven't had a girlfriend in forever. My whole life was ruined because of this. And he points out various props, like his jacket and stuff, and he's like, all right, so that's $1,000. If you want to buy that, here's where you can contact me. If you want to buy it, if you want to buy the van, I still have the van. You can buy that. I'm just trying. I need money.
I'll throw in a free quart of sperm,
and you can blow me
if you order within the next 30 minutes.
Oh my god,
this is really edging into a Woody Allen impression. Have we found out have we figured out the intersection of Woody Allen and Vincent Gallo?
They're both fucking creeps.
Yeah. You got to cut some of that into this somehow, the director's commentary.
Yeah. Some of it's on YouTube, I think. Yeah.
Oh, man, I got to check that out.
I want to hear Vincent Gallo's commentary on The Sea of Trees.
Yes.
Absolutely. Oh, my God, that would be amazing. I wonder if there's a commentary on that. I should look for that.
So
I doubt it.
Andy, before we let you go, and I think that, again, thank you for joining us for what may be an ongoing series now of Cannes-tastrophes.
That was pretty fun.
And
it's a fun thing to say.
It was a lot of fun.
Cannes-tastrophe. Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
I do like to ask guests at the end of each episode, first of all, what your favorite all-time film is, and also what you think of Southland Tales. And we got one of those out of the way already, so we'll add your tally.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to do that. Oh, my God.
The end is the beginning is the end.
I did like that one. My favorite movie.
Swartacus' all-time favorite film?
Since I was about 16 years old is Unforgiven. That's my favorite.
Oh, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Expand.
And it's never kind of left, and it kind of ages with you, and makes you feel different each time you watch it, especially as you get older and you have kids. Quit drinking, blah blah blah. Stop cutting up whores. But I think
I gotta quit that.
I love the just the take on it. Like, especially after, like, I mean, I loved it when I first saw it, but then as I got into college and stuff, I watched way more Clint Eastwood movies, and then it made even more sense as the kind of career capper it was supposed to be at the time. Now he's made like 400 more movies after that, but I just think that and A Perfect World right after it are two of my favorite movies probably ever.
Oh, wow. I've never seen A Perfect World or even heard anybody really talk much about it.
That was one of the ones I did with Amy. It was Perfect World and The Weatherman.
Okay.
Yeah, Perfect World is great. I think it's Kevin Costner's best movie.
I've never seen any of these.
Weatherman, you got to watch just for Cage.
Oh, man. Come over. I'll watch Unforgiven anytime. It's probably my favorite Western. And
it's great.
I love me some Westerns. And
it's probably the one movie I've never got sick of over the course of my life, which, you know, I go up and down on a lot of movies and a lot of directors, but I never get sick of that one.
It also might be, except for The Apartment, I would say it's probably my favorite, like, Best Picture winner ever too.
The Apartment's good too. Yeah.
So rarely get that right, and
they do. They never do.
Very good. Yeah. It's the best dad movie ever made.
It is, and you come to realize that after you become a dad. But I remember when I was a teenager, though, I just thought it was kind of badass. But it really is a dad movie for 100%.
All right. Well, Swartacus, Andy, whatever your real name is.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you want to tell us about? Anything coming up for you? Any other things
coming up for me? No, I just continue to work at the home shopping channel that I work at, and write a lot of letterbox stuff. Yeah. So
what can you sell me on the home shopping channel?
Oh gosh, today we were selling some grills, some kitchen grills, and some skincare and jewelry. I mean, pretty much you name it, it's there.
Sounds like you have a lot to plug.
Watch Shop HQ on YouTube. You can stream it live on YouTube.
Hell yeah.
Oh man, you can't just fall asleep in front of the TV and wake up at 3 a.m. anymore and have it be there.
Oh yeah, you can still do that. Of course, you can always do that.
You can always come
Some people cure their colicky babies in the middle of the night by playing the shopping networks.
Seth records podcasts that way. Just
it's perfect.
In the middle of the night in bed with the TV
in
flickering.
His bed. Oh yeah.
No, I was never here. I was a ghost the whole podcast.
Throw Sea of Trees on and some home shopping, and you'll sleep through the night, guaranteed.
Yeah, bound to happen. But I don't have to sleep. I'm a ghost.
A forest ghost.
Well, thanks again. That was a blast. I love reading your stuff on Letterboxd, and everyone go check that out. And the only one unforgiven here is Gus Van Sant. We forgive Vincent Gallo.
I'm not forgiving Vincent Gallo. I think he's probably
he's kind of a creep.
I'm afraid of that man.
Unwatchables is produced by Tony Scarpitti, hosted by me, Marc Dottavio, and Seth Troyer, with artwork by Micah Kraus. You can find Seth and I on Letterboxd under Marc Dottavio and Sloth Troyer. You can also check us out at unwatchablespod.com for links to our Twitter and Instagram, or support us on Patreon for bonus content and to have a say in what we watch. Thanks for listening.